And now, from beyond our dimension, this is the JeffMara podcast. Here's Jeff.
My two favorite engineers are back, and they are Kosta Makreas and Hollis Polk. Kosta founded the People's Disclosure Movement, which empowers everyday people to interact directly with ET star beings. Hollis is a clairvoyant master practitioner of neurolinguistics and a certified hypnotherapist. Kosta and Hollis, welcome back. It's great to have you guys again.
Great to be here.
Yeah, it's great to be here. Thanks for having us back, Jeff.
So I mentioned in the beginning that you found the People's Disclosure Movement. What is it and why is it important?
It was founded in 2010, and it's all about contact with star beings. That's a really hot topic these days, as you and your audience know, Jeff. The UFO, UAP is in the news. But we take it a step further. Since 2010, thousands of people have learned how to make their own kind of contact using what are called close encounter of the fifth kind protocols, which involve consciousness, meditation, an opening of the heart, etc. So the People's Disclosure Movement is just a huge assemblage of all of us in these intervening years since 2010, and actually even before, people were doing this kind of thing in the 70s under different names. But the whole idea is that we humans initiate the contact. We interact with the star beings who are here and do want to interact with us. If we just meet them halfway in an environment of goodwill and high vibration and openness and peacefulness, it happens and has been happening, for many thousands of people. The cool thing about the People's Disclosure Movement is that we, the people, are doing the disclosure. If you know anything about the UFO, UAP topic these days, and a lot of people do because it's been hitting the mass media more and more, the word disclosure is all over the place. And the big question that people are asking is, when is my government, could be fill in the blank, whatever government, we live in the United States, so we would ask, when is our government going to have that press conference by a president, or maybe in another country, a prime minister, or whatever, a premier, to hold a press conference and say, yes, these beings are real. We're being visited. We've known this for decades. Sorry about us lying to you. But believe us now. It's a thing. They're real, and you haven't been crazy. And we're sorry about that. Well, that kind of press conference hasn't been happening. Maybe in other countries, there have been closer approaches to that. And that's all along the official side, where people are waiting for disclosure to come from official, authoritarian types of sources, like a government or some other large institution. What's different about the People's Disclosure Movement is it's we, the people, decided to take our power back from those institutions and just say, look, we're tired of waiting and on bended knee and saying, please, 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 and following clues and false starts, etc. We're going to do it ourselves. And so since 2010, and actually starting in the 70s by other groups like Rama, people have directly gone and made their own contact. And this is really powerful. It's just as powerful when millions of us are doing this as it is to get an acknowledgement by one president or a premier, because it's us and we own that. So in that sense, we in the People's Disclosure Movement, we own the future because we're continuing to make contact. And I want to add that our star friends, and yes, we do communicate with them, as many, many people in our movement do as well. They told us that in 2019, we reached a tipping point where our movement has moved into the space now where it can't be stopped. And the image they gave me was a snowball rolling downhill that can't be stopped. And so that's where we are. That's why the future belongs to us. Maybe the past has been one of kind of a victimhood and a cover-up. And yeah, that's been there for 70 plus years in the United States anyway. But that's changed now. And that's why I'm excited and want to let your audience know that as part of the People's Disclosure Movement, you making your own contact, you have thousands and millions of people who believe like you that the contact can be direct. It's a real thing, and it's bringing about the day of full open disclosure on Earth faster than if we had just sat back and done nothing. And I just have to say, our star friends are over the moon, so to speak. Um, really joyous that we took it upon ourselves to create these contact teams all over the world and to keep talking with them. Because they said that as we continue to do that, they're going to show themselves in more places. And if you're following some of the statistics in the last few years, you'll see that sightings and the reportings of them have increased in cities around the world. There are people that have tabulated this. And so I believe our star friends are keeping their word. When they said, hey, reach out to us, that'll give us permission to interact with you more, where more of you will see us and give us more permission to interact with even more of you in more places. They've been doing that. And that's what led to the 2019 tipping point. So that's the good news. We've disclosed, we've taken our power back, and it's been a people's disclosure. And you can go ahead and wait for the governments to kind of catch up to us. But, you know, the people's disclosure movement is the one leading the way right now.
Besides the tipping point, what is the most important thing that the people have disclosed?
That they have the power to do this themselves. You don't need an array of antennas and millions of dollars every year for someone else to try to receive signals or to tell you you didn't see what you saw. This is the most revolutionary thing. When people take back their power in anything, this is what's important. And that's what I hear from people who have made their contact for the first time. They go, oh my God, I didn't think this was possible. My family and I were out, we tried this, and we had a positive experience. We had things happen and interaction and all that. And you can't put a price on that because that has empowered a human being to believe in themselves and to take the next step. They become an activist. They tell the next person. Maybe the next person doesn't believe, but they eventually find someone that they can share this with who shares it with someone else. And there again, that's the best gift I think we could give anybody is here's your power back. You can do this and teach someone else while you're at it after you succeed.
Can you share with us some of your own personal ET contact stories?
Yeah.
Of course. Most of them are together. One time we were out in the desert and it was the last night of a retreat. It was getting on towards midnight and I was tired. I was really tired. We're all sitting there in our, like, I'm in a beach chair, I can lean back. I'm looking up at the sky and literally, I mean, way out there, but directly over the center of our circle, something flashed at me 3 times, very brightly. Flash, flash, flash. And I thought to myself, "Oh, man." I was really tired. I'm like, "Oh, man, I'm gonna have to tell everybody that this happened because I can't just sit here and ignore it, like, it was too good." And then I start to hear everybody in the circle start to exclaim.
And in the circle of about 13 or 14 of us, which is how we do our contact, we'll sit in meditation under the sky, and the interaction comes in many different ways. We're never sure uh, how we will be communicated with. But what we saw while Hollis was looking up at the sky, the rest of us in that circle in the dark, and it was near midnight. Again, it was the last night of a 6-day retreat that we end at midnight. So it was really close to the end of the whole week's activities. Um, so we're in this small circle, and what I see and everyone else sees is inside of our circle, inside the circle part, not on us and not outside the circle, but very, very focused, the inside of the circle on the ground lit up. And this is the desert. There's no lights in the ground, there's desert sand and bugs and things like that. But the ground went flash, flash, flash like that, like so bright, the ground. And all of us with one voice went, oh, like that. And that's what Hollis heard.
That's what I saw, but all I saw was it up there, and they saw it on the ground.
We theorized that the objects she saw up above was directing some kind of a beam, specifically very, very focused, just to the inner part of our circle there. So we saw evidence of one activity. She saw the flash up above. We saw 3 flashes on the ground where the beam that was coming from up above was directed to. So that was an amazing experience. That just doesn't happen. That wasn't random.
And think about it, right? We know what laser pointers do. Very, very narrow beams over great distance, but very narrow. You know, a quarter of an inch. We know what spotlights are, but they're not focused over many, many miles because this was way out there. It wasn't even in our atmosphere. So this is some kind of directed beam that I don't know that we know how to create on Earth.
Well, as an engineer, what do you think the technology would be?
I have no idea. We're just the experiencers. I would like to know, like
Me
someone
too.
show me the formulas for this or get me a device that does that
Right.
from likely hundreds of miles away. I suspect we, as humans in our military programs, we have technologies with spy satellites. I mean, they're up there in a parking orbit. They can read your license plate from up there, etc. So we humans have technologies that are that advanced. Why is it so hard to believe that a civilization that is visiting here doesn't have that or something even better to be able to salute and greet a group like ours? I mean, this was so non-random.
Well,
I mean,
intentional.
and intentional. Thank you. That's even a better word.
And the thing is, it was at the very end of 6 nights. Didn't happen in the middle of any night, didn't happen at the end of any other night. This was like a thank you and farewell kind of gesture.
A finale.
Which again has happened at other retreats in
Right.
different ways. So once it was over, we go, aha, thank you. We waved at the sky and said, it's been a nice week. See
Yeah,
you
thanks,
next
we
time.
love you. Yeah.
Thanks, we love you.
Now
That's
you,
one story.
well,
Yeah.
you guys live in the Silicon Valley area, right?
Right.
Why do you guys travel to the desert to do your retreats? And what desert are you speaking of?
We need to go someplace where there's no light. That there's way too much ambient light in the Bay Area, right? All those millions of people and all those street lights, there's light. And you need someplace where it's really, really dark so you can see the sky clearly.
Yeah, that's very simple, and which is isolated. That
Well,
sometimes we've gotten in the past close approaches of starships, and that could happen in a desert where there's no habitation for miles, but we can still see them. Now, that can't happen in a neighborhood here. Although there are stories of other people who have seen things. This is all over the map, by the way. But that's basically why we go to the desert. It's just to get the dark sky.
Are you guys
And
going down to Palm Springs or the Mojave Desert?
close by the Joshua Tree.
right. But it's a ways enough. Like Palm Springs has a lot of light.
Yeah.
We're out in the desert, in the country, away from any town. Or it doesn't matter. Like you could be in any very rural area, right? Farm country is good. Mountains are good. Like it doesn't matter. The point is to avoid the ambient light.
Yeah.
Well, what other contact have you had?
We were, I forget the year, but we were at Mount Shasta in Northern California, which is a well-known magnet for all kinds of paranormal things. Included among them are visitations of craft that people have seen for decades. There's lots of stories there. So we were there with a group again in a field with the majestic mountain of Mount Shasta in the distance. And we had it was an overcast night, actually, which is not usual. There's times where we won't go out when it's overcast, but in this case, the group went out anyway. There were 40 of us, and we did a meditation in a circle of doing the contact, the usual thing we do. And there was also misty, I have to say. When we finished our meditation, I think Hollis tugged on my arm and pointed up.
Well,
Yeah.
so the first thing you need to know is like it was this heavy overcast ceiling. It was solid cloud.
Yeah.
And we meditated. And when we got done meditating, there was a hole in the clouds directly over the group where we could clearly see out into the cosmos.
Yeah.
Like we clearly meditated a hole in the clouds. And we've done since then, like once you know it's possible, you do it again. We've done it lots of times. But at the time, this was very new for us. And as I'm looking up, again, I'm leaning back in my beach chair, and we see in the middle of this hole in the clouds, mist, kind of clouds beginning to agglomerate in the center of the hole. And we're watching it, and we're watching. It's like a cloud is coming literally out of nowhere, right? And as I look at it, I'm like, I think that's a heart.
It's true. And she tugged on my arm, and I looked up, and I saw the same thing, which is the agglomeration of the mist, and it formed a giant heart. I'm not kidding. The traditional. How do we do this? Yeah,
Yeah.
that shape. Um,
Let me stop you for 1 second. Have you seen the movie A Tear in the Sky with
I've heard of it.
Caroline? I think Caroline Corey. And
Right.
it was like a 5 days, and they were looking for UFOs down by Catalina Island. And one of the nights
Yeah.
they did, it looks like they found, from the way I interpret it, as a portal in the sky opening up.
Wow.
Cool.
And so when you guys are saying this opening in the clouds, and I think it was an opening in the clouds too in her movie. So do you think it's
Oh.
possible that a portal could have opened?
I want to see that movie now. Thank you for mentioning that. It's been on my list, but this is a good reminder.
So do you think it could have been a portal that opened
Yeah.
for you, or was it just a message that they sent to you of the heart in the sky?
I think it was a message.
And there's more.
Well, and the thing is, there was some guy, I don't even know who it was, across the circle going, look, I think it's making a heart. So it wasn't just me. And then somebody else said,
I just got a telepathic message from, and there was an object up there a light that wasn't a star in the middle of this circle that had been burned through. And the guy said to the whole group, I just got a telepathic message from the beings up there, and they say they love us. And so we heard that from him as we watched this, literally a heart-shaped cloud that had not been there a minute-ish before. What a message. Now, was it a portal that they opened up to do that? I guess I don't know, but to me, that's not important. The message is what's important. They showed us a heart, and they told someone mind to mind, telepathy, we love you. That's powerful right there. So that's our story, and we're sticking to it.
All right.
We have more.
Last time we talked about how ETs showed up in your bedroom when you were at Mount Shasta and Hollis was at home. Do you have any more stories of contact with ETs like that?
not like that. And yes, we were going to do one. We were going to do one like that. Oh, you want, okay, now?
Yeah, why not?
So we were going out with a local group here in the Bay Area to a place that is relatively dark. Not the darkest, but relatively dark. And we did our group meditation, and I had the sense like, and we were very spread out. Like usually there's a couple feet between us, between each person, but this time for whatever reason, there were like 6 feet-ish between each chair. It was a big space, there weren't that many people, whatever. And I could feel on my right, kind of like in line with the circle, there was a being standing there next to me. And so, you can feel with your hands, you can feel energy fields with your hands. Pretty much everybody can do it. And it's easy for me to teach you how, but I won't go there now. So I reached out and, in the dark, and it's not like anybody's paying attention to me. And I'm trying not to put my hands in the screen, and I'm kind of feeling the being. And it was maybe one of the same beings, because it was also, kind of 3.5, 4 feet high. And my sense was it had like a normal shape of a humanoid body, right? I mean, it was, relatively narrow for how tall it was, that kind of thing. And I was like, oh, there's a being here. There's definitely a being here. So I asked so I told the group that, and they got up, and I was like, we don't want to overwhelm this being. And I kind of asked its permission, like, is it okay if other people come feel you? It's like, yeah, okay. So one at a time, each person got up and came and felt, the being's energy fields, and everybody felt it. So
What
It's
did
nice
it?
to get group of validation like that.
Yeah, I mean, did you just feel energy or something
yeah,
else?
just energy.
Did you feel the contours, the actual like?
No, how do I say this? Different people have different amounts of sensitivity in their hands. And it's not one of my strong suits, right? The feeling in my hands. I feel people's energy fields, and I can feel different layers. But like some people can feel different temperatures or different electrical things. Every now and then I'll feel something electrical, but not with that being. But just feeling like, oh, there's actually something there. And it's hard to describe if you've never felt an energy field. Oh boy. I wish I could describe it better. Like it has a kind of
Does it feel like tingling?
density. For some people it does. It doesn't for me. For me, there's a kind of density or maybe a warmth that like people's energy fields have edges. I mean, they're not hard edges, they're kind of soft edges. But they have them, and each person, like any other psychic ability, right? Each person's is unique to that person, and so different people feel them. Like some people, in their hands, it turns into colors. It doesn't for me. So I can't tell you. We didn't have a long discussion about what each person felt, but definitely people, you could hear people go, "Oh," because I was sitting right next to them. Like, and when they felt, I was like, "Oh, yeah, there was really, wow," whatever. There was really something there. Somebody, I'm going to say somebody.
That's cool.
We have more.
All right, let's have it.
Peggy.
Oh, okay. So one night we were out in the field, up near Mount Shasta, and all night long there had been these things with periodic flashes. They'd move across the sky, flashing periodically. And it was clear, partly because they were flashing and partly because they were moving. These were not stars.
Changing direction.
They would change direction, and they were not airplanes. They didn't have nav lights. So they were pretty much white, and they were flashing and they were moving. They were not overly bright. And let me highly recommend night vision goggles. I don't have them. A friend of mine had night vision binoculars, and hers were very high quality. And she was like, "Oh yeah, it's a craft. Here." And she handed me the binoculars, and I put them up, and literally, the classic, the disc with the bubble on top of it, the dome, that disc, literally, this is what it was. And it had a light in the disc, and the disc was rotating. And so what people saw as flashing was actually the light going around the disc, right? When it was right in front of you, it was bright. As it rotated around towards the back, it got dimmer until it was, at the back half or so, you couldn't see it, and then would come around and it would get brighter until it was the brightest. And this just kept happening. So as this disc, it was really a disc. As the disc traveled, you could see its light.
And that's what was fascinating, because a whole group of us, without the night vision, just regular, our own vision, what we saw was just a zigzagging light, flashing on and off and on and off, not knowing the explanation for how it was, like, why it was doing that. But that was exciting enough, because I remember that it traversed half the sky or more. Again, changing direction, zigzagging.
Right. There was which meant there was plenty of time for me to watch it go around.
Yeah, she had the time to observe. So it was fascinating and just great to have Hollis's input in that moment to say, well, this is what it really is. And I'm actually seeing a shape here. This is not just a light going on and off, which is cool enough for me. She said, I see a shape. It's got a dome on it and all that, and it's rotating. It doesn't get better than that, other than maybe having an actual landing of some kind. But that's the real thing. Just two different kinds of perception: naked eye versus the night vision. And I will say about night vision equipment, they vary in quality. The real good ones are going to cost thousands of dollars, but pretty good ones, maybe not as much. So we recommend to people that if they can augment their experience with night vision, it really opens up so much more visually than you ever thought possible. And it's just beautiful, actually, to see the sky.
Yep.
Do you
The
guys,
higher quality ones, it matters.
Yeah.
do you own a pair?
Not right now. I used to have a pair, and thinking about getting another one. And they're in color now, so they've that enhancement has happened.
I would like to get a pair and then hook it up either to an iPad or a computer, so then I don't have to hold them. You know what I mean? I can kind of look at my screen and then hit record when he sees something, if that's possible.
That's what well,
Jimmy?
no, the people that were out in the field with us, oh man,
Oh, Rob.
Rob Freeman and his what did he call it?
Weapon of mass
The
debunction.
weapon of mass debunction.
We have a friend who has an array of different kinds of cameras, all put together,
On
attached
one frame.
on one chassis, kind of, and he will aim them in the sky at something anomalous, like, say, an object like this going by, and each camera has a different capability. It might be thermal, it might be infrared, it might be an iPhone in one case,
Ultraviolet, like
whatever.
different parts of
and
the
they're all
spectrum.
watching the same thing, but they're getting different readouts because of they were built to do different things. So he does what you were just talking about, Jeff, which is has it hooked up to his computer and the video's running. So he gathers all this data as something is happening, and then later on, after the excitement's over, he sits down at his editing suite and watches this thing frame by frame from different cameras. Oh, the infrared is showing this. Oh, the thermal camera is showing that, and he can verify or identify what's going on because each of those cameras has some different information to tell him. So it's a really thorough assessment of what's happened, and it's possible. But he built that himself, and it costs thousands of dollars. And now you don't have to have all those cameras. I get your point, which is if you have just one. There is someone who is selling systems like that, off the top of my head, I don't remember. Maybe in a future show I can recommend that. But this person has a website and provides a kit of cameras set up, maybe not as big as the one our friend has, but sure looks sophisticated enough, all hooked up to a screen and with all kinds of data and ability to record and stuff. So I'll try to look that up again and offer that up to people because it's cool to have that. We like scientific proof. We don't just want to believe anything that's out there. It's nice.
Okay, thank you for sharing that. Do you have any more stories?
Yeah, we have a final one that's very local to our Bay Area location, where in our local spot that's actually even near the international airport, which did not stop us from having any experience. One night, many years ago, our usual CE5 group was doing our usual meditation in a circle up at this spot. And we had been told that by one of our friends who claimed that she was a Pleiadian starseed and that her father was a captain of a ship. Now, I've told part of this story where I showed a picture of where we actually saw this Hirate, but that's not what I'm doing today. What I'm going to emphasize is in the beginning, before we saw the ground picture of Hirate, we saw the starship in the sky, seemingly over the airport. It could have been way up in the atmosphere, but it was in the direction there. And everybody saw it. It zigzagged and changed intensity as it flashed, as if to make sure that it was saying, look, I'm not I'm not some periodic, excuse me, man-made object, same intensity, a predictable path, whatever. It was changing direction, changing intensity,
Moving
and
really fast.
and moving, and everybody saw it. So that's a typical kind of experience that we wish every group would have, because we know that psychic abilities will vary, and that's good, because you get a group out there and you all see the same thing, but maybe psychically, because of people's varying abilities, you'll get different pieces of information. The thing with a visual sighting, like what I just described, is that most of us have night vision. Most of us can see, and it bonds the group. It brings everyone together. You get up out of your seat, and this thing lasted for like a minute as it's changing direction, and everybody was able to point and ooh and ah and sharing the experience. And that's really special. It makes what we do with encounters fun, not just informative and world-changing, I guess.
Is being psychic necessary to make contact with the star people?
Not at all. Meditation can happen no matter what your abilities are. Meditation actually will enhance whatever abilities you do have, by the way. So you may find that the more you meditate, the more information you get. And, you reach out, in your mind and ask them to be here, and they will do visual things like Hirate did that everybody can see.
What Hollis said.
Is it possible to do hypnotic regressions for ET encounters?
Of course.
You've done them.
I've done them. I mean, yeah, of course. It's also, this is a change of subject, but if it's possible to do them for past life recall too, right? Your soul. Okay, this is my model of reality. I'm not saying that it's true, but in my model of reality, your soul includes, information from all of your incarnations, including this one. And so if you've ever been an extraterrestrial, right? And plenty of people have memories of being on other planets or on craft or whatever, you can access that.
Yeah, it's all about us agreeing or believing that we are multidimensional. We may be focused in this body in this way for this time, but from a higher perspective, from the multidimensional perspective, we are in a lot of different places, in a lot of different forms all the time. So these regressions are able to tap into that and give a person a fuller picture. Sometimes it's for healing. Some people have trauma, and that's why regression will happen. A memory that doesn't make sense in this life, but maybe whose cause may be buried in some other existence, either an incarnation on Earth, or maybe, as Hollis was saying, as being a being on another planet. But there's information there. It's all in the universe. Everything's connected, and the regression is just one way to get at that, for whatever reason that you want to do it.
Now, you guys are also involved in the People's Love Alliance. What is that?
It's one of the things closest to my heart. Well, it is about love. What I want to say to your audience is that it's no secret that when you look at the news these days, almost in any direction, there are terrible things going on all over planet Earth. And it's easy to really be overwhelmed by the negativity and to get into despair that nothing good is happening, at least nothing on a large scale, or even sometimes on a small scale. So I want to speak to the heart of everyone out here and just say, I feel you there, because I'm like that too. I find it easy to go into despair if all I do is watch the mainstream news. And we live here in the United States. I don't know totally what mainstream news is like in other countries, but there may be better options available or not. So what is the People's Love Alliance? It is in the way that the People's Disclosure Movement gives the power back to us to disclose the presence of our friends, the star beings. The People's Love Alliance is us telling each other a story of good things that are happening, we become the media because we have to. Corporate media everywhere has prejudices and other agendas other than making us feel good about ourselves. They're trying to sell us things, right? Or make us feel bad and be in fear. The People's Love Alliance is the answer to that. And it involves many more millions of people than any of us realize. And so when I started doing some research to try to find places on the internet where good news was happening, where people are what I like to say, humans behaving well, I found places, and that's what I want to be offering your audience, Jeff. Hopefully on semi-regular basis is doses of good news to really balance things out and let you know that basically I think 99.9% of humanity, we have our flaws, but we're basically good people. Though the heart of humanity really is sound, but the mainstream media will not reflect that to you by and large. So good news is what's associated with the People's Love Alliance. And if you know where to look it on the internet, you can start feeding it to yourself. I like to use an analogy and say that when you get up in the morning, you've been sleeping at night and you're hungry, you need sustenance. You'll choose something that you enjoy eating by and large, enjoy drinking, and that gives you energy and a boost and does something positive for your body. Taking the newspaper or watching the morning news, which again is more negative and fear-based, and feeding yourself in the morning, that doesn't make sense. I mean, you're caring for your physical body by giving it the nourishment, the positive nourishment it needs, and yet you're telling your emotional body, drink all this poison and start your day with all this stuff that's of people killing each other and things going wrong and greed and corruption, and try to have a good day. So we have good news and places to look for it. And I say, feed yourself a little bit of good news in the morning while you're nourishing your physical body, and make your soul, give your soul half a chance to have a good day and look forward to something, inspire you to know that there are lots and millions of people doing good things. So what we want to be offering now is just some really quick bites of good news that came from a website called Reasons to Be Cheerful, and I want to credit them for that because they published a list of things that went right in 2023, and it's by no means exhaustive. Their list was only 177 things. We've chosen about 50 of them. They're one-liners, pieces of good news that I would like people just to take in. We'll spend a couple minutes and just read you the one-liners of what was provided to us by Reasons to Be Cheerful, as little acts of kindness and big acts of good things going on. It runs the gamut, but it all is good news, humans behaving well. So we'll start just giving you a list.
All right, how current is this news?
This is from the end of 2023. We're now in January, so it was a lot of these items, they did not have dates on them, but if I know the website, because I've been following them, it's within a year or two of things happening, if not in 2023. Actually, I take that back. They advertised this as 2023 things that happened that were good in that year. So I'll believe them, and that means that what we're about to list to you all are things that happened in 2023, which are good. So yeah, really recent.
Sounds good.
Yeah, and I'll let Hollis start. And they're just one-liners.
The ozone layer will be completely recovered in the next 40 years.
An organization of Fukushima moms is monitoring the area's radiation levels by processing 2,000 samples annually of everything from home gardening, produce, to vacuum dust.
The Inflation Reduction Act set aside $1.5 billion for urban tree planting in 2023.
A 30-story apartment building in Manhattan will prevent the release of 60% of its boiler's carbon dioxide by cooling it to a liquid and mixing it into cement.
More than 15 million people living in Brazil's densely populated favelas are getting street addresses.
The UK government offers parents 30 hours of free childcare per week.
Volunteers have given new life to more than 100,000 abandoned bicycles, shipping them across the globe to people who need them.
A Tunisian school's solar panels produce 4 times the power the campus needs, allowing the school to sell energy back to the grid, which funds classes in robotics.
80% of new cars sold in Norway are electric.
50 students are currently enrolled in a program that helps trafficking survivors attain a college degree.
The biggest dam removal project in U.S. history, currently underway on the Klamath River, will open up 400 miles of fish habitat.
The East Coast Greenway is home to 50 million car-free outings yearly.
In Lagos, Nigeria, 115 students are paying their school tuition with recyclable plastic bottles instead of cash.
Volunteers have helped more than 70,000 amphibians to cross New Hampshire roads.
In Oregon, 33,000 acres of grasslands were converted into the Zumwalt Prairie Preserve, the largest private nature sanctuary in the state.
At a Swedish apartment complex, intergenerational tenants agree to interact for at least 2 hours per week.
Volunteers with the Black Joy, an organization fighting for social justice through joyful celebration, have visited 170 towns across Oregon.
After New Jersey banned single-use plastic bags, 37% fewer ended up on its beaches.
Cancer fatalities in the U.S. are down 33% from 1991, amounting to 3.8 million deaths avoided.
A 1,500 square foot Boston greenhouse that yields 2,000 pounds of produce a year is fully powered with geothermal energy.
In Jaipur, India, 40 single moms receive a guaranteed basic income that allows them to improve their lives.
Slovenia's child poverty rate has dropped 31% since 2014.
Amsterdam built an underwater garage for bicycles with space for over 7,000 bikes.
A sailing group cleaning plastic waste from England's coast has removed over 70 tons of rubbish and recycled 85% of it.
In California, a 400-acre oil field is being transformed into a nature preserve.
500 students have re-enrolled at Detroit's Wayne State University after the school offered partial debt forgiveness.
Within a month after setting up sustainable dams, one Himalayan mountainside area had at least 15% more vegetation in 1 month.
With small emergency rent payments to avoid evictions, a Portland shelter kept nearly 100 families out of homelessness last year.
30 long-dead lakes have been revived in India's Bengaluru district.
The number of U.S. high school students taking community college courses doubled in the last decade.
Curved blades in next-gen hydroelectric turbines allow 99% of aquatic life to safely swim through them.
Over 2,000 companies are using a platform that connects those with plastic waste with those who want to recycle it.
5,000 students at Technological University Dublin live in totally warm dorms thanks to excess heat from a nearby data center.
Gas processed from New Yorkers' decaying food scraps has produced enough renewable energy for about 2,500 homes.
A 5,000 square mile Peruvian national park is setting an example of how to care for both nature and people.
During the 2023 season, 268 gray whales visited the San Ignacio Lagoon, among the only places where they seek human contact, creating a natural attraction and helping the environment.
Over 10,000 physicians across Canada have written green prescriptions, instructing patients to spend more time in nature.
A restaurant in Minneapolis has employed 48 fellows, all of them formerly incarcerated.
Drones are planting seeds in Canadian forests at a rate of 5 pods per second, helping wildfire-scarred areas recover quickly. They need to do that in California.
Barefoot College, that's capitals, started as a way to help impoverished Indian villagers learn advanced skills. Today, it has 250 night schools operating in 10 Indian states.
People on bikes represent 40% of non-pedestrian rush hour traffic in London.
Wow.
Yeah.
Norway has built the world's longest purpose-built bicycling and pedestrian tunnel with a length of 1.8 miles.
When given the choice to sell their farms for commercial development or continue growing crops, 94% of Tokyo's farmers decided to keep farming. The law on productive green areas is why over 1,000 farms continue to produce crops in Tokyo today.
Over 200 nursing homes and assisted living centers, the majority of them in rural areas, offer telehealth mental health consultations to their residents.
The Hunger Project is serving around 35,000 people in Uganda, fighting hunger by teaching them how to grow their own food.
Veja, a sustainable sneaker project, sells more than 2 million pairs of shoes a year.
A nonprofit group has removed almost 3,000 crab traps from Mississippi waters.
In Costa Rica, 3.2 million acres of forest are protected thanks to an alliance between the government and landowners.
In an Indian village, 111 trees are planted for every newborn girl. Now, a forest is growing there.
Finally, for me, 27 young members of the Ai-Kofan indigenous community are working to protect the Amazon with a key assist from technology. Thank you for allowing us to share these with you. And I would ask your audience, if you want to hear more of these kinds of stories in this way, please leave a comment and just tell us that it's useful for you. We hope it is. We just want to bring you examples, large and small, again, of humans behaving well instead of humans behaving badly. And finally, along the People's Love Alliance lines, there's an organization called avaz.org. It's avaaz.org. With avaz, the word meaning voice in several languages. And that's important because it's really the voice of the people. What's interesting about Avaz is that they are now 70 million people strong, having started, I believe, in 2007. Their members are people, everyday people like you and me, in every country of the world. And you can go onto their website and actually see all the members on the map as you scroll over the different countries. What's really cool is that it's people coming together for people-powered campaigns to help each other's causes in their countries across borders. Avaz doesn't have like any corporate sponsorship or advertisers, so the money they raise to do their campaigns to better life on Earth just comes in small dollar amounts from 70 million people. And this is what I want to let people really feel and understand, that when you think it's just you and 10 of your friends only who really care about the planet or are active in doing something, that's not the case. Again, the media, mass media, won't reflect to you the fact that there are hundreds of millions of us doing good acts every day, and in all kinds of areas, at all levels of societies, in all cultures, that just doesn't get the publicity it deserves. But if you go to avaz.org, you'll see one place where 70 million people come together every day to communicate with each other, to raise a concern about saving wildlife or saving an ecosystem somewhere, or building a water system in a village. All kinds of projects and causes, from the small to the very, very large, for social justice, for indigenous people. All these things that matter to a lot of us are where Avaz operates, and where its 70 million people cooperate and have had lots of campaigns that have succeeded. Again, this is all on the website. You can drill down and just see campaign after campaign and country after country where people power has made a difference. We're winning. And we have to keep believing and knowing that we're winning, as long as we know that we're not alone. And again, Avaz is just one of those places. There's other places on the internet where things are going on in a really good way, but we have to seek it out, because it's not going to be on our TV screens at night. I also like to say that if, at least in the United States, if the half hour of usual news that we get on our telly, and it's not half an hour, there's commercials, of course, but let's say 95% of the news is always about car crashes and fires and earthquakes and wars. And yeah, we need to know about that stuff, but 95% of the newscast, 5% of the newscast might be a feel-good story right at the end that they like to trail off with. Well, that's fine and well. What if they reversed that ratio? What if they gave us 20, or rather 95% of good stories like what Hollis and I were just reading here, not only in our neighborhood, in our city, but around the world? 95% of the broadcasts. And then the last 5% just run off all the wars. Here's a list of all the wars going on and things that happened, and see you later. Imagine what that would do to the psyche, psychologically, in healing and lifting entire populations who depend on the mass news to form how they feel about the world, about their future. Giving them 95% of the good news, which we know is there, so there's no lack of it. That's no excuse, but just changing your formula and feeding us what we really want to hear that's positive, I think would remake the world in a very short time. And I'm not saying that out of naivete. I really think that a lot of people are in despair and need the balance to change of what's coming at them in terms of information. We need more positive stuff.
What you focus on expands.
What can you guys tell us about the pair lab research?
The short takeaway goes like this. People talk about like women's intuition, but in point of fact, on average, one woman is as good as one man.
At what?
Okay, what their research was on was human consciousness affecting physical reality. Could you keep a robot from falling off a round table that was programmed to do random things? Could you create, instead of a standard normal curve distribution on a kind of pachinko machine thing of balls, could you make it tilt to one side or the other? Could you influence the height of a column of water? All kinds of weird little things like that. And it turns out you can. I did. And they did tens of thousands of trials on hundreds or thousands of people over, I think, 27 or 28 years. And again, the short takeaway goes like this. Although people vary widely, on average, one woman is as good as one man. On average, two women are as good as one woman. Two men are as good as one man. But a man and a woman together are 3 or 4 times as good as either one individually. And a man and a woman who are a couple are 5 to 7 times as good. When I was there, I was told that the higher numbers, and I think over time, maybe that efficacy fell off, and so the lower numbers are from later on. But I mean, a man and a woman are way better than either one individually. How cool is that?
I've had a guest or two that have claimed that they've been healed by ETs. Do you guys have any stories about that?
Yeah, several. And these are very personal ones that have happened to friends of ours. Some dramatic and some not as dramatic, but still healings. I have one friend in Kansas who was suffering from terrible migraines and decided to do her CE5, her Close Encounters of the Fifth Kind contact anyway, I believe. And she went outside underneath the stars and meditated as best as she could to make her connection. And long story short, she felt this energy come over her. And bottom line is the migraine just disappeared in that moment. And it's not like this would happen to her randomly. The migraine would come and go. They often have patterns, from what I'm told. So it was clear to her that the removal of the migraine in that moment and her feeling at peace and warm, etc., was as a direct result of having sat down and made the contact with star beings in that way at that time, in that moment. So that's one everyday kind of example that we can all relate to.
We have another friend who actually wrote about how basically his dog was healed in the living room by beings that came into the living room. And I don't remember what was wrong
I
with
remember
the dog.
the dog had stage 4 cancer.
Ah, thank you.
A beloved animal, and many of us who've been pet owners know that this is a situation that's as serious as any human member of your family being sick. It's a big deal. And then, if I remember correctly, our friend that afternoon or later on that day, they were going to have the dog euthanized because it was,
For the next day.
or the
Yeah.
next day maybe, because, obviously nobody could save it. There was pain and etc. They were trying to do the humane thing that they could. However, our friends saw, if I remember, orbs appear in the living room and move about. They may have encompassed the dog. And once they were gone, the dog was normal.
Yeah, the dog who had
supposed to
been
be-
lying there incapacitated
Yeah.
was walking around, running around, barking, happy,
Right.
all good.
And you either believe a friend like that or you don't. That's why we put a lot of, I mean, hearing a secondhand story is one thing. Hearing it from someone that you trust, that
Right.
dramatic, is awesome.
And I want to say this is somebody who is completely together on the physical world. He's an attorney, right? This is somebody who just travels in. No, this is an attorney who practices, and
Right.
this was his experience.
Yeah, that's profound. And we have another friend who just recently had a variety of maladies, I think. And in her front yard, this was just a few weeks ago, actually, saw first 2, but then finally 5 different points of light, orbs, at a close distance to her, that overwhelmed her with love, with a feeling of peace and light and warmth that came over her. She was standing outside in 20-degree weather, barefoot in a tank top and shorts. There's a story behind that. She's not crazy.
No,
She's
not
one of the most put together people that you could possibly know. But she was out there just for a few minutes to get something done. I'll just run out. Had this experience of seeing these lights approach her, as well as have a bare tree in her front yard, which just with the branches, because this was winter, there's no leaves. But the tree was full of birds that were chirping. Like, that was weird. That just didn't happen. Full of birds that just don't do that. Just prior to her seeing these orbs that approached her and then enveloped her in this light. And as she tells the story, and she's told this story on Facebook as well, so she's gone public with it. After the orbs went away, she felt great. She had been suffering from lethargy, from pain, lack of sleep, a lot of things rolled into one. And she just said, I feel like my old self instantaneously, like that, after that experience. And we stay in touch. She's continued to be a powerhouse and be her old self, with all the energy and holding classes and online consultations and taking care of family, et cetera, et cetera. Just powering on all pistons there, like her old self. And you just can't make that kind of stuff up if you really do believe your friends, and we do. So those are the 3 stories we have. I'm sure there's many others that I'll bet your audience could probably relate. Put them in the comments. I'd like to see them. Yeah.
Well, if people want to join the People's Love Alliance or the People's Disclosure Movement, how do they do that?
Just come to etletstalk.com. It's a free membership. All we need is your email address, and you'll start getting announcements about our regularly scheduled monthly virtual ET contact events, which happen all over the world at the Saturday of a new moon every month. We've been doing those since 2010 every month, and we have hundreds of teams. So you'll get announcements about joining that, announcements about our webinars, special interviews that we do with really interesting people in this ET contact field, and so on. So we urge people to come and be part of a community that really supports who you are, what your story is. etletstalk.com is a safe place where people can kind of come out and tell that story that they've been holding in maybe for years in some cases because of fear of ridicule or loss of a job or loss of reputation, etc. I created that website for people to find community, share their stories, and teach and learn all at the same time. So y'all come.
But don't you have a Facebook page as well?
Yes, it's called Good News Every Day. It's 4 letters like that. If you could just do a search on Good News Every Day, you will find a community there of people who are posting good news stories, just like the ones Hollis and I were reading off here, but with pictures and sometimes videos.
And whole stories.
And whole stories, not just the summaries like we were providing. And it's the place to go, I think, in the morning, when instead of reading all the bad news, go online. And I know a lot of people don't like Facebook, and a lot of people do. I'm there because a lot of my community is there, so I meet them there. But there are bright spots there on Facebook, and I think that groups like ours, Good News Every Day, is one of them, where you make some good news of your own, or if you find it, you can offer it up and post it there and make someone else's day go a little bit better when they read it. So yeah, come join us there.
Yep, very uplifting.
Yeah.
Well, Kosta and Hollis, thank you for coming back and sharing them with us today. I really appreciate you both, and I wish you massive success in whatever you're doing.
Thank you, Jeff. It's a pleasure to have been here. Thank you for having us back.
Thanks very much. It's been great.
Thanks for watching the JeffMara podcast. I really appreciate you. Another way to show support is through YouTube memberships. And if you do, there are loyalty badges and other perks depending on your level of membership. All you need to do is click the join button underneath the video to find out more. Thank you for your support.